you please state your name for us, please?
Patti Sullenrick, maiden name Stricker.
Welcome. Thank you so much for coming out today. So what is it that you have brought for us today?
I brought a picture of my grandmother, Katharina Weitzel Stricker, her sister, Maria Weitzel Meyer. So we call her great aunt Mary, is lost in Russia. She remained in Russia when the rest of the family came to America, and we lost contact.
So what time period was that they came over?
Grandma came to America with all the rest of her family. There were 22 children in that family, 9 from her mother and father, 13 from her stepmother and father. All but Aunt Mary came to America in 1912 on the Adriatic, the USS Adriatic, in October of 1912. So this picture had to have been taken probably within a year or two of that, so maybe 1909, 1910, somewhere in there.
So do you know why it was that your great aunt Mary was lost?
Yes. Okay, well, the Weitzel, and it's Weitzel, family was from Rosenberg, now called Yumet, Y-M-E-T, in the Kamyshin district of Russia on the Volga. They left Russia because they wanted, for several reasons, but primarily because of the military. Great-grandpa was supposed to go into the military, and many came over because of that. Aunt Mary was married at the time, and so she remained in Russia. The reason we call her lost is because those who stayed in Russia, who did not come out, were the victims of the massive famine in Russia in the early 1920s. And then on August 28, 1941, all of the German descendants were deported because of Stalin's orders to Siberia and Kazakhstan. And we call her lost because the last letters we know of that came from her or her husband or family came in the early 1930s when the collective farms were established. At that time, they were living in Sherbakovka, which is north of Rosenberg. And I brought some other books here that kind of support the information, not that they're separate from Aunt Mary. One of the things that I have is a family history.
Wow.
This is volume 1.
Was that written by someone in the family?
Me.
By you?
Yes. I wanted my children to understand our heritage. And then this is volume 2. And chapter 9 is about my grandpa and grandma's family, and also talks about Aunt Mary, and has some copies of the letters that we know that exist from her that she wrote to her brother, and tells a little bit about the background. I also have a copy of the letters from Aunt Mary that we have, and a researcher in Russia located the deportation list, and so we know that Aunt Mary and her family were sent to Vagay from Sherbakovka. They were basically loaded up in boxcars and sent. As far as we know, that's all the records we've been able to locate on Aunt Mary. And my dad, I'm not supposed to cry. My dad promised my grandmother, who was the next in line as far as age-wise, promised Grandma he would find Aunt Mary. Daddy died in 1986, so he has no idea that I'm getting close to finding Aunt Mary's family.
No, it's hard with all the problems going on with what was going on in Russia. I know. That's really unfortunate though. I'm sure he would be very proud that you're doing all this work and have all this history, because
And then I
It's very
actually got
important.
the church records from Rosenberg, which does not have Aunt Mary or anybody, but it does have one of her siblings that died in Russia.
Mhm.
So it's all in support of Aunt Mary and my quest to find Aunt Mary.
That's phenomenal, the amount of research and writing you've accumulated. That's really amazing, actually. I
Yeah.
commend you for that.
Thank you. It took me
especially-
about 5 years to
Wow.
pull that together.
And that,
Yeah, especially over the time period between like the 30s and 40s and the 1900s, because Europe was very much in a big conflict then. So I would assume that finding information during that time is very,
yeah.
Exactly.
it's very difficult.
And these start with Sherpovka, which our direct Stricker ancestor was the boy Stricker, or the founder of that village. So they start with that. They talk about Rosenberg. You know, I gave what I could find on Rosenberg. And then each chapter is about one of Grandpa's siblings. But of course, chapter 9 has my grandmother and talks about Aunt Mary and her family as well. The other thing that I do have that I want to share with you about Aunt Mary is I wrote this for our storytelling contest, and we'll need to get copies for you. It's called Great Grandpa's Tears, and that is a picture of my great grandfather. You can take the clip off if you like. It's a picture of my great grandfather and Aunt Mary, and then when my great grandmother died. It also has a picture of Grandpa in the band in Rosenberg. The reason it's titled that is because my great uncle Harold is still living, and he said that every time great grandpa talked about Aunt Mary, he cried. He had promised her he was coming back to Russia to get her, and he never did. And it was something he lived with for all of his life and cried.
That's a very interesting story. And the fact, was this brought to the United States from Germany?
The
or
picture from Russia, the picture had to have been, because this was taken in Russia. As far as in this format, I'm thinking it was maybe a flat picture that, you know, maybe in the early 20s or so, they, you know, had blow-ups made or whatever. And then, you know, the frame, I'm positive they would not have had this type of picture and frame in Russia.
You know, I was gonna say that would have taken a lot of effort to bring,
Yeah.
the picture across, but
Yeah.
clearly the picture was very important if they
Yeah.
were going to bring it. So.
Yeah, yeah.
And who originally decided to make the frame of this picture? Whose decision was that?
You know, I don't know. It was probably Grandpa and Grandma's. So it would have been her. And the picture did belong to Grandpa and Grandma Stricker. It hung in their house until she died. And then my Aunt Esther Fricky, you know, when they divided things up, took the picture. Several years ago, my cousin brought the picture to a family reunion. It's been hanging in the house of my Uncle Leo, who is my godfather, in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. And will probably go to his daughter. There's a sad story to that, but I don't want that on record.
No, that's fun. That's a very interesting history. How you have it, like people coming over and going back. I think it's very interesting that you're finding all this information. Thank you for sharing it with us. I think I really like seeing pictures from back then, because it's neat to see not only like the people but like what they wore. Just that time
Exactly.
period. It's very interesting.
So she would have been, we always thought she was the oldest in the family, but the deportation lists say that she was born 2 or 3 years ahead of Grandma.
Yeah.
So, but anyway.